Good?
Yeah, I think you look good.
Hang on just a second. Oh.
Yeah, I got to put those I always keep my glasses handy. I got a pair of these in about every room.
I know. Oh, all right. Let me get a little water here.
You've been taking care of the kids all morning. They wore you out.
I made pancakes. We colored Easter eggs.
No.
We did all kinds of stuff.
I love that. I love that. Hey, everybody. I got the Z-Man, Coach Jim Zorn, on podcast today on Another Rep, and I love this dude. I love him. I've known him for a long time, but we got to finally coach together just with the XFL, the Seattle Dragons, and it was a blast. It got cut short because of COVID, but hey, it is what it is.
I feel like I'm in your neighborhood.
I wish you were in our neighborhood. That would be so fun, man. We'd go coach the little guys down the street.
That's right. I've been doing some of that.
So let me ask you this. How many nicknames do you have? Because I know a Z-Man.
Yeah. I don't have many others. I'm Z. I'm JZ. Some people call me JZ.
Okay.
But hey, you. There's all kinds of names, right?
How about your grandkids? What do they call you?
Well, I want them to call me Sir King Grandfather, right? That's what I wanted to go by. And I've told them, you can call me Sir, or you can call me King, or you can call me Grandfather, but they call me Poppy. So
hey, that's pretty cool,
though. Yeah. So I go by Poppy or Pops.
How many grandkids, and what's the age limits?
Well, now we have 7 as of 8 weeks ago. We had 6, and my youngest daughter, our third child, just had her first.
Yeah,
and,
little Miss Danny.
Danny,
yeah.
And she that baby is a boy. His name is Carver, and he's 8 weeks old. So we have 7 grandkids.
And none of them call you Sir King.
No, only when they're messing around with me, right? Only when they're messing.
Hey, Poppy's pretty good. Coach Poppy, maybe. Coach Poppy.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty fun.
You've got some grandkids.
No, not yet. I just got my first son married off. He lives in Hawaii, and he just got married off. And then my daughter's going to get married in September. So we're not quite there yet.
It's a joy. I mean, it's really been fun.
Yeah.
In fact, we just had a grandson sleepover last night. So we had all of our grandsons here. And
how many was that?
That was well, we have 4 now, but we only had 3 of them over.
Yeah.
But we had, we had a big time. So we go 11, 6, and 5. And
what did we do? Let's figure out what we did.
That's right. We it wasn't hard. And Joy, my wife, is really a great hostess,
facilitator of the.
She does a great job. But we messed around last night and played different things. And
you have a campfire or anything?
No, probably
Boys and fire, maybe not good.
Yeah, we've done that before. And then this morning I have a couple of electric motorcycles that and we have a couple parks adjacent to our house, and they rip around and they rode motorcycles. And
well, I rode your electric bike. That thing, if your motorcycles go faster than that bike, that's good for a 10-year-old kid.
I can keep up. Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about, everybody knows you're a great football player. How did it all start?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, let's go back to well, maybe not everybody knew you were a great football player. I knew that, and I'm going to tell everybody you were a great football player. When your name is up in the Ring of Honor at the Seattle Seahawks stadium, that signifies you were a great football player. So I'm letting everybody know that straight up front. So that's what went down for Coach Zorn.
All right.
How did it all start?
Well, I was not really going to be I didn't play football when I was young. I didn't really play any organized sport. My parents just, they would say, go outside and play. So I did. And we used to play football in the street. From the field was light post to light post.
Curb to
and
curb, light post to light.
curb to curb, and you wait until cars go by, and then you get back out there again.
Love it.
And
That was Southern California, right?
That was Southern California. And sometimes we were barefoot in the street. You know, you never do that today. Anyway, we did. And then when I was a freshman in high school, think about this, I went out for cross country.
Okay.
And I ran cross country. I was not fast. I was probably the least on the team. And then I went out for a couple other sports that year as a freshman. And then my sophomore year, a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's don't go out for cross country this year. Let's go out for football."
So did you that was your first organized football? You never like played Pop Warner or anything like that?
No, 15 years old. And I was a receiver and DB. I had no idea what all the rules were or anything like that. I just remembered what we did in the street, right?
Yeah.
And
were you the quarterback when they played in the street?
Yeah, I played quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'm left-handed, you know.
Yeah.
But that made no difference. I could just throw it. So the coach during this, I was on the sophomore team.
Yeah.
And the coach said, "Hey, would you play quarterback? I saw you throw. Could you play QB for us until we get a guy that comes down from varsity?" And I loved it. I said, "Yep, I'll do that." And I liked it because I could touch the ball every single play.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, and I could throw, and so I learned how to play quarterback. And they did have a varsity guy come down, so I had to back up. And I think the only game we won that year as a sophomore, I got to play in. I played the whole game. And then my junior year, I broke my wrist in a game.
Your throwing wrist?
Yeah. Let me think. I can't remember. I think it was my other wrist. Yeah, it was my other wrist, my right wrist. I dislocated it, I think. Ooh, I landed on the ball, running, scrambling.
Yeah.
And then, so my senior year was really the first success I had at quarterback. And that gave me an opportunity to think about playing in college. I didn't get a scholarship.
Yeah.
And my mom asked me to just get a job. You know, you need to start working.
Right.
Quit thinking about, football.
Silly games.
Yeah. So I said, well, I could play 2 more years at the junior college. Let me do that. And it didn't cost much to go to a junior college.
Yeah.
And I could, if I had to, I could walk or ride my bike.
Yeah.
It was a few miles away.
Was that Mount Sac? Was that Mount Sac?
No, that was Cerritos.
Okay, Cerritos.
Cerritos Junior College. And so I went there and I played 2 years. And then after my sophomore year, I got recruited by this football powerhouse, Cal Poly Pomona, and they offered me a half scholarship. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. So I went to Cal Poly Pomona on a half scholarship. And that was Division II, NCAA Division II football. And my junior year, I think the thing that set me apart or set my course towards playing well was our head coach after our first game. And we had, we played Fresno State our first game, my junior year. And we ended up beating them. And I remember being on the field at the end of the game, taking knees, and the head coach he ran out onto the field as the game was done, and he got right in my face and said, you are a great player. You are going to have a great career here and a great career in college football. And I was shocked. Nobody, that was such an encouragement to me.
Yeah.
That I'd never heard before.
Right.
And so I guess I tried to prove him right. And I tried to study and play, and, I was really committed to play well. And that year, I led the nation in total offense of all colleges. I was a scrambler and a passer. And so I had a bunch of yards, and we didn't win many games. And my senior year, I think I was 3rd in the nation. And got some success. And then NFL teams came around and scouted and kind of measured me and ran me and
that was my next question. How do you get from Cal Poly Pomona, which I don't even know if they even play football anymore?
No, they don't.
From Cal Poly Pomona Division II to the NFL, and then doing what you did in the NFL. Let's go on that journey.
Yeah, at that time, the Denver Broncos worked out at Cal Poly Pomona during the summer. Teams go around different places. And I think all the teams came by because they knew, I had some potential. And that year in 1975, think how long ago that is.
Yeah.
They had 16 rounds. And so a lot of people thought I was going to be drafted in the middle rounds. By who, I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Most of the teams come around and scout and all that kind of stuff. So after
do you remember who the quarterback was at the Broncos then? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Did
you even really pay attention much to the Broncos when they came?
No, I didn't pay attention to any pro team really.
Yeah.
Claudie Minor had been the first round draft choice. Okay, Claudie Minor. He was an offensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
And he was the first guy. He was probably the first name I remember. And I don't know who the quarterback was. And John Ralston was the head coach.
Okay.
And they had worked out there, and I was out, I'd always be out working to try to get better and things like that.
Yeah.
And after 16 rounds in the NFL, think about that. There's only 7 today.
Exhausting.
I was not drafted.
Yeah.
And so I was passed up. So
did you think you were going to get drafted? Did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought, I thought I was going to get drafted.
So each round you're kind of sitting on the edge of your chair, just yeah.
Well, especially in the second day.
Yeah.
Maybe not the first day, but the second day I thought, okay, I'm good enough for that.
Yeah.
Easily, in my mind. Yeah. But everybody passed me by. So then immediately I had 4 contracts sitting in front of me.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was like the Steelers, the Cowboys, it was the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think it was the Bears. Anyway, and I thought to myself, I heard I had kind of professed, and I was trying to live out a Christian life at that particular time. I became a Christian when I was in high school, as a senior in high school. And I had heard that Tom Landry was a Christian coach. And so that was one of the main reasons I signed with the Cowboys. Because I wanted to see if it was okay as a Christian to play on Sunday instead of going to church, because college football was not on Sunday. And this would have been the first time that I would think, can you really skip church?
Yeah.
Can you really do something on Sunday?
Were you really staunch Christian growing up, never miss church on Sunday and all that?
Well, I think I would miss it. But if I was going to go surfing that day, I would have my surfboard on top of my car, and I went to a big church. I'd pull in, and they didn't really care what you dress like.
Yeah.
That. So I'd go in my surf shorts, and I'd go to church, and then I'd head out to the beach.
Okay.
And surf after that. But I enjoyed going. I really did. It was kind of that era where there was a big Jesus movement, and there, the hippies were becoming Christians, and so I think that
and so were the surfers.
And the surfers, right? And so I don't know if I know why I decided to make this commitment to follow Christ. But I think part of my motivation was because, it was, there was a lot of young people that were turning their lives over and saying, okay, God, you lead me. And there wasn't as much scrutiny or criticism towards Christianity as there probably is today.
Yeah.
So I became a Christian, and then I wanted, again, back to Tom Landry. I wanted to see, can you really be a Christian and be a violent player, because football has some violence to it. And so I signed a contract with the Dallas Cowboys, and
which was kind of cool because their training camp was in Thousand Oaks.
That's right.
That's where I grew up, in Thousand Oaks.
That's right. Well, you were there, and your brother was there too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I brought my skateboard to camp, and I remember either skateboarding with you or your brother.
Yeah. Just
along the path, kind of between practices. And you guys did a great job because you were working in the equipment room, as I remember. And then if you remember our strength coach, his name was Alvin Roy.
Alvin Roy, yeah.
Yep. And I'll never forget the very first training camp, the mini camp we went to in Dallas. And that camp, I remember it was the first time I had seen Tom Landry. And,
really?
You always see him in a suit and everything. Yeah. And, here he's walking down the aisle, and here's all these free agents and draft choices. Randy White was the first rounder that year.
Ooh, okay.
Thomas Henderson was all drafted.
There's a character.
Well, right? And so here we all are sitting there, and Tom walks down. He's got little reading glasses, and he doesn't have his hat on, and he's bald, you know, and he's got his coaching shirt, coaching whistle.
He's strong dude too. And
he's a big dude. Yeah, he really was a big man.
Yeah.
And he said, congratulations, gentlemen, been drafted, or you're a free agent, which I was. And he said, I want to, before I start, I want to just have you guys know who my favorite writer is of all time. And I want to read you something that he wrote. And it was the Apostle Paul.
Oh,
wow. And he read right from the start, he read 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27, which talks about an athlete.
That's so amazing. You remember that.
Yeah. Oh,
impactful.
Yeah, it was an impact. And he said, y'all are going to have a chance to be a Dallas Cowboy. So I want you to run this race to win. Right. And then I got Alvin Roy got a hold of me. And for some reason, he took to me because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. Was it super intimidating coming from like Division II to the NFL?
Yeah.
It just
we had
coaching and the whole thing.
The coaching, the detail. I loved the detail.
Yeah.
We didn't
at Cal Poly Pomona, you're probably, I don't know if you ever were on TV unless you were in the national playoffs. No. TV, and then, because like at USC, just down the street a little ways, they're on TV every weekend. And so that the kids that transition from that level of football to the NFL, it's not so big as going from Cal Poly Pomona to the NFL. So
no, we had great, first of all, it was an ag school. So we had great turf, right? It was natural grass. It was awesome. But the only people that would come to our games were our parents and the band, and that was it. We had the parents and the band, we didn't have many people.
Yeah.
But so I
well, you're sitting in that team meeting. That's a little, were you like looking around going, whoa?
Yeah. I mean, I was. People thought I was a kicker, So Alvin Roy got a hold of me, and I remember him calling me I'm Hungarian, and he said, I'm going to call you the Hungarian Hellfighter. And I just had a lot of respect for him. So at Cal Poly, we didn't really have a weight room. We had kind of a weight lifting area that we had some universal machines set up. And so there was this shed way out in the field, and Alvin Roy had taught us how to do power lifts, right? We did deadlifts, cleans, power cleans.
Yeah, we had that cage out in between the fields.
Yeah. Power pulls and clean and jerks and things like that. And so he sent me home with a notebook that showed the techniques and gave me a weightlifting program. So, and this was between, this was after the draft, and I was still at Cal Poly for my fourth year.
Okay.
And so I just said to myself, regular training camp starts on like July 7th or 8th.
Right.
And I'm not going to go into that camp allowing them to cut me for things that I can do myself. And so I thought, I can lift and I can run and I can throw, I can do those things. And if they're going to cut me, they're going to cut me because the offense is too complicated. I can't understand the game, whatever. But it wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to be for not being physically ready.
Yeah.
So I religiously worked out, and I religiously committed to, we had this, and Cal Poly was built on a hill. Kellogg, the Kellogg cornflakes guy used to own all that property.
Wow.
And there was this hill up to his old mansion that was just like, it was run down basically. But I used to run up that hill all the time. And when we went to camp out in Thousand Oaks, I don't know if you remember, but we did an extensive kind of pre-camp workout, and it weeded a bunch of guys out. We had 120 guys before the veterans came.
I know.
And, I did pretty well. And he had a great staff. Mike Ditka was on his staff, Dan Reeves, Gene Stallings was on his staff. So he had a pretty good staff, and I did pretty well from a physical standpoint. So they allowed me to stay. I think there were 9 other QBs there. And I actually made the football team along with 12 other rookies that year. They had 13 rookies make the Dallas Cowboys. And then during the week that we had 6, think about this, we had 6 preseason games, and almost all of it was 2-a-days. And we had we had 3 weeks. No, we had 2 weeks of training camp, or 3 weeks of training camp, before the veterans even showed up. So
and we would scrimmage against the Rams or the Chargers or somebody else.
Yeah, we did the 49ers, the Chargers. We went to we went to Cal Poly Pomona and scrimmaged the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I think we did 3 teams that summer.
A lot of football before football ever starts.
Yeah. And I only got to play in one game. I got to play against the Oakland Raiders in Dallas. And we were losing, but we went down and we scored, and I threw a couple balls and I scrambled a little bit. And I made the team. I was the number 3 QB. And that's when we had 43 players and no injured reserve, no
squad,
no practice squad, nothing like that. 43. And we had there was a guy named Scott Laidlaw, who was a fullback from Stanford, and he had hurt his knee a little bit, and they wanted to keep him. So they needed another guy. So they traded for Preston Pearson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that made it 44. Somebody had to go. And so instead of staying with 3 QBs, they stayed with 2, Roger Staubach and Clint Longley. And I was the guy that had to go. But
so how'd that go? Let's stop right there. How'd that go? Yeah. They come up to you, you've made the team, and you're like, oh, good. This is what I worked for. And then they come and tell you. And then what's that emotion like?
Yeah, that emotion, it was really hard. And I didn't know if it was something that I did, because when I made the team, they wanted to change my jersey number. So all through training camp, I had been number 7. And they wouldn't let me wear, for some reason, they wouldn't let me wear 7. So I took another number 17, which was really controversial because it was Don Meredith's number.
Oh, geez.
Okay. And I didn't know that. I didn't know Don,
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure Don Meredith. Oh, you got Don Meredith's number. Who's
You
that?
were like, okay.
Right. And so I took number 17. Well, I didn't know whether I got cut, was
Oh,
I showing off? And the other thing that I did was I changed cleats. I had black shoes and I had the opportunity to get new cleats. And so this was when it was really popular to have white cleats. And so I got a pair of white, the equipment guy gave me a pair of white cleats.
yeah.
And it was like 2 days later, it was right at the end of the week. I got cut. And I remember Tom coming up to me at my locker and he said, I'm going to have to let you go. And, he was emotional about it because he hadn't had to do anything like that. And I had made the team.
Yeah.
But with injuries, they decided to keep extra receiver and an extra DB because it was between one of those three guys, and they cut me. So he said, "Hey, listen, if one of our guys gets injured, we want you to stay around. And if one of our guys gets injured, we're going to bring you right back because the offense." And Roger never got injured, and Clint. He backed him up, and that's when they had, that year they had a big argument, and I don't know if you remember that. Clint punched him, and
you played. Your style was like Roger, running around and all that.
Yeah.
So you get cut, and then you go home to Cal Poly Pomona. And how long are you sitting there before something else happens?
Well, I was actually in Dallas, staying there. I did what Tom had told me, and there was a kind of a guy who loved the Cowboys, and he wanted me to help his son throw the football. So, and I ran errands for him and stuff. And then the Dallas Cowboys had called. I mean, the LA Rams had called me.
Oh, okay.
And said, why don't you come and be our third quarterback? And James Harris and Ron Jaworski were the two QBs there.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'll go. I wasn't doing anything in Dallas, so I got to be on the team. So I got to practice with the LA Rams every single day. And I didn't know, because here I am, I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what the NFL was all about. And there were, agents and and teams. So
did you even have an agent?
Well, I had one, but because I was a free agent, he just said, "You're out. I'm out." And so, it was there's a lot of other little things that happened during that whole time. But when I went to the Rams, Merlin Olsen was still on the team. Jack Snow, like I say, James Harris was the quarterback. Chuck Knox was the head coach. Tom Dempsey, do you remember? He was the kicker. With one, he had a stump for his foot, and I was a holder.
He had the
and I got to hold for him, and oh my gosh, that ball
felt like a cannon going off.
Yes, but I started knowing something was a little bit awry when the press would come in. I remember the coach would say, "Hey, you can leave now. You don't have to be on the side. You don't have to be on the field. You can take off." When the press came in. So I thought, and then I didn't suit up on Sundays.
Yeah.
I got tickets to the game, but I was
there was a couple of gray areas in there.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, something's not right. Well, they had made the playoffs, and this team called the Seattle Seahawks were forming. And so a scout called me from the Seattle Seahawks and said, would you come and look at the Seahawks? We want to sign you to a contract. And my first question was, well, do you play in the NFL? Yeah, we're
not
an
exactly
NFL team.
Yet. We're an expansion team.
Yeah, and I said, and I didn't know what that was. So I said, well, do you play teams like the LA Rams? Yes. Do you play the Dallas Cowboys? Yes. Do you play the Oakland Raiders? Yes. We're in the NFL. I said, okay, I'll come up and check you guys out. And when I went up there, I signed a contract because they had talked about, you have a chance to be the starting quarterback here. And as soon as I signed, I think they probably signed and they drafted 2 others, and they signed about 5 or 6 others. There were a dozen of us during the summer or during the spring before we even got started. And I became the starting quarterback through all the
So was it you
all
were
the
the starting
competition.
quarterback as soon as you got there? Like the first year you were there on the team, you were the starting
Yeah.
quarterback. And then
Yeah.
how many years? Tell everybody how many years you kept.
Well, I kept my position for almost 8 years, but I got injured in 1981. In fact, this is news maybe to you. I'm getting surgery next week,
That is news.
and I had a real severe ankle injury
Right.
in the early 80s, and it really sped my career up to the end. So I ended up getting 10 years vested. I was in the league for 11 years. I started for the Seahawks for 7 out of those 8 years I was there.
That's awesome.
My position, I had to back up a year and a half. In fact, Chuck Knox came to Seattle, and it wasn't about scrambling anymore. It was about just running the football and standing in that pocket. And when you scrambled, it was hard for a coach at that time because, scrambling is unpredictable.
Oh yeah.
Right. You can create. Nowadays, it's almost a must. If you have a scrambling quarterback that can get you out of trouble and create opportunities that aren't going to be there, extend plays, you want that. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
You
were way ahead of your time.
Yeah. But the quarterbacks that were in the playoffs at that time were the Kenny Andersons, the Dan Fouts, these guys, great passers, play action pass, standing in the pocket. And Chuck Knox, his nickname Ground Chuck.
Yeah.
Right. And so he liked to run the football, and he had particular pass plays that he would call, but he would call the pass when he had to, not necessarily when he wanted to. And then I don't think I drove him crazy, but I know that I scrambled. And
did you audible much? Like
we didn't audible a lot.
Because you had Steve Largent was like your hookup man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I threw more than half the passes to Steve. And then when Dave Craig was also a backup for a while, and then he became the starter. Then he threw a bunch of passes to Steve. Yeah. Steve had only played for one team his whole career, and it was Seattle. And then he retired. And Steve and I are close even today.
Yeah, that's right.
Hang out together. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
Who were some of the other quarterbacks that got drafted at that time, just for the listeners, if you can even remember?
That got drafted. Well, John Elway was drafted. I played against him, but Kenny Stabler and Jim Plunkett. Yeah, these guys were some of the prominent. Like I said, Kenny Anderson. Yeah. Do you remember who was the guy that was the Cleveland quarterback? Brian Sipe.
Oh yeah.
Steve Grogan had played in New England at that particular time. Jaworski had gone to Philadelphia. Burt Jones was in Baltimore with the Colts. These are the era. Eric Hipple was in Detroit.
That's fun.
So it was a lot of fun, but I'll tell you.
So then you played a long time. Then you went into coaching, and you coached in the NFL for a long time. I know.
And the playing career, even if you're in it for 12 to 14 years, it feels like it happens like that. And I became a coach. In fact, I tried to become a coach early. Went into Chuck Knox after I had said, okay, in 1987, I said, okay, I'm going to retire. Yeah. So I took a year. I took the 1987, the rest of the 87 year, and part of 88 to say, okay, what am I going to do? And I wanted to coach. So I went into Chuck, who was still the Seahawks head coach. And I said, hey, I'd love to be on your staff. Yeah. I've played this long. I want to coach. And he said, no. He said, I was so mad. I was really mad. And he said, you're going to benefit more out of being a coach on our staff than we're going to benefit from you being on our staff. And he said, what I need you to do, if I don't want to be your guinea pig.
Right.
So you try to go to whatever team you can coach for, however high up. It could be high school,
Yeah.
junior college, whatever, wherever you can coach, and you start there and then work your way.
Oh man.
So that's what I did.
Where'd you go?
I went to Boise State University.
Okay.
There was a coach, Skip Hall, who gave me my first opportunity. So we packed up our family and moved to Boise, and I was there for 3 years, and I was the quarterback coach. Then I became the quarterback and receiver coach. And then I became the quarterback, receiver, and the kicking coach. So we did multiple things, and I had a good office mate. Here's the playbook, learn it, coach it. And I was there for 3 years, and then I went to Utah State for 3 years. Yep. Then I went to the University of Minnesota for 3 years. And then our head coach resigned at the University of Minnesota. And I was a volunteer in 1997 with the Seattle Seahawks during their training camp.
Okay.
And my goal, my hidden goal, was to try to get so much responsibility that they'd want to keep me on.
Yeah.
And so I volunteered. I threw passes to the kids after practice as kind of a Seahawk deal.
Yeah.
But I snapped for the quarterbacks during 7-on-7, right? And it was Warren Moon, John Freeze, Kitna had come through there. They had drafted after that, I think they had drafted Rick Meyer from
Notre
Dame.
Well,
it wasn't that, maybe it was that year. No, it wasn't that year, because that year John Freeze played, and then Warren Moon played because John broke his thumb. That was 1997, okay? And I think Rick had come there when Chuck was still there. No, because I remember the coach. No, it was Tom Flores. Okay. Tom Flores was the head coach, and that's when Rick Meyer had come. But anyway, after that first year, I had the opportunity to go to the Detroit Lions, and I coached the quarterbacks there with Bobby Ross.
Okay.
And we had Mark, I think it was that, but we drafted Charlie Batch, and Herman Moore was there. And we had a pretty decent team, but we were trying to grow, and we weren't great. So
Detroit's been Detroit.
Yeah. After the second year, we had gotten Bobby resigned right in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
And he just felt like he was, and he really wasn't, but he felt like he was the problem. And that's when they hired Matt Millen as the GM and Marty Morningwig as the head coach. Okay. Well, I had called Chuck Knox, Mike Holmgren in Seattle. He was the head coach. He had already been there 1 year. And I said, Mike, you got to help me. Tell me what the West Coast offense is.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I said, well, there's this mystique about the West Coast offense. And Detroit, I'm in Detroit. I want to stay. And they just hired Marty Morningwig. And I know he coached with you, yeah. Mike. What's the mystique? I want to, when I interview, he's going to interview me. When I interview, I want to know what's going on. He said, give me the phone. And so he said, give me Marty's number. So he called Marty. Marty didn't really want me on the staff.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter what Mike said. So Mike had a guy leave. And so Mike called me up and asked me to interview for the quarterback coach position here. And I had a wonderful time. It was the best coaching opportunity I could have ever had because of Mike's past with Bill Walsh and what he taught, the offense that he wanted to put on the field. And I got to be really involved. I got to be involved with a lot of third down, maybe 20% of the offense, and then red zone and things like that.
Yeah.
And Mike let me coach. He really let me coach the quarterbacks. He, he used to kid about some of the drill work that I had because, I used a slip and slide to learn to teach quarterbacks how to slide.
Yeah, right.
And play for another.
They're using that to this day.
Yeah. And so
I loved working for Coach Holmgren or with Coach Holmgren, Coach Mike.
He was
Brown.
Tremendous.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Learned a ton of football from him. And he was always on point to me.
Yeah.
He was a been there, done that guy. And why are we doing this? Because this is how it works. And you can try all that stuff, but this is how it works. And I really
And exactly right. And one of the things that I loved even after our first year was just putting together during the off season, you get to evaluate, right? You evaluate your schemes. And I'll never forget evaluating because in the West Coast game, there's hot throws, but nobody adjusts, right? There's sort of natural hot throws. So if you have a protection breakdown, then you can throw hot. Well, Mike likes tempo. And so one of the things that we tried to create is a lot of tempo without having a no huddle offense. We would huddle, but I had Matt Hasselbeck, I had Trent Dilfer, I had Brock Heward. These guys were incredible with the way that they could have a presence in the huddle, get in and out of the huddle, onto the line of scrimmage, and start their count. So we would work on this, but during the off season, we would do scheme evaluations. And this might get really boring for your podcast, but no. We would, one of the things that I did was break down hot throws. Like when you throw hot because of a blitz and you didn't protect it, you got to get rid of the ball. Well, a lot of teams can force you into a hot throw.
That's right. Yeah.
And tackle you, and you're still punting if they do it on third down.
That's right.
And it turned out you can really see, analyzing it, that throwing hot was not the best way to go because a lot of times it didn't get the first down. It just you could complete it, but you'd get tackled, and now you're punting anyway. And then maybe 50% of the time you throw hot, the ball's off a little bit, or it's cluttered, or the ball gets batted. Something didn't happen perfectly, right? So it really taught me early in my career as a coach how to teach a quarterback not only what the protection schemes were. That was your main deal, but then how to come up with changing a protection.
That's right.
With words or points and directions, and changing the rules, and then maybe even changing the pattern or the route.
That's right.
And then creating an opportunity not to have to throw hot, and then try to complete that pass or complete the new play or the existing play without the running back involved, because he would be you're changing a line.
Yes.
Going from one direction to another direction. And
that's what you see today. Like you see Matthew Stafford in the Super Bowl, he remakes the whole protection scheme to protect himself so he can get a ball past the first down line.
Right. Well, when I played
with ease and not feel like, I got to get this.
When I played, we had things called sight adjust.
Right.
All right. The quarterback would say, hey, if these two linebackers come, you receiver, you're going to break your route off into another route. And you spend so much time on that.
Yeah.
And then it might happen 4 times in a game or 2 times in a game. Well, changing protection, getting yourself protected gave you a chance to stand in the pocket or even scramble with protection if something broke down inside.
That's right.
Gave you a different opportunity. And
Well, also, protection beats coverage, right? So we talk
right.
about that all the time. Protection beats coverage. So when you can remike it, change your protection, you're also not only protecting yourself, but you're beating that coverage. And it allows you to affect the defensive coordinator's mindset. Like, oh crap, they know what they're doing over there.
Yeah.
How are we going to get to this guy now? Disguise
right.
this
So,
better so he doesn't have time to change, and
right.
and
And
then
you
you
can
got
have the same protection look like it's a different protection. And so a coach, a defensive coordinator, they're all mean and evil anyway. They would say, you know what, they got us on this, but now we're going to try this. So, hey,
Yeah.
we've got a weak side overload, and now we're going to bring a strong side overload. Oh, they protected us with a strong side overload, so now we're going to come inside. And
that's why we spend
always,
so much time. That's why we spend so much time as offensive coordinators with blitz pickup, and
right.
doing the right thing with protection. Let me ask you this. I'm going to move forward. So you became a head coach. You became the head coach of the Redskins. And then how was it now? The table is a little bit turned because you were playing and you were like, I'm playing, I'm not getting cut. And now you have the fates of these young guys in your hands as far as putting a roster together and having to call guys into your office. And, they have had this dream of playing pro football their whole life. And now you got to redirect that dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's certain things that coaches have to go in with, because you're earning, you're trying to trust your players, but you're also earning the trust of the players that what you say actually means something. If what you say doesn't mean anything, or it turns out to not mean anything, you'll lose your team.
Yeah.
And so I guess I could use a bunch of words that begin with the letter C. There's a consistency, right?
Okay.
That you have to have. There's communication, and I would say clarity, right, is super important. And that consistent message that you're creating. You got to be creative, right? So all these C letters come into play, but to earn that trust, I guess the integrity you have as a head football coach is very fragile. And if you treat one player differently than you treat another, or you say something in a meeting and you don't apply it as the head football coach out on the field, whether it be in practice or a game.
Right.
And there's a lot of time involved as well. Yeah, right. In preparation. You not only get, there's a lack of respect by your coaching staff because you're earning their trust as well. They want to have the freedom to coach and not look over their shoulder, or not have one thing said and then treat them a different way because the emotions get stirred up.
It's a whole culture that culture that you're trying to keep consistent and consistently well, a healthy.
Yeah, that message that we try to put out, the vision of the direction we're going in, and then to speak about it daily and create the clarity.
Yeah.
I think the toughest part, well, there's all kinds of issues.
Yeah, there's
right?
a lot of tough parts.
Winning does a lot, and you can be almost, if you have a really great football team, can almost be a little inconsistent. You can't be inconsistent for long, but you can be a little inconsistent as a head coach because the players are so good. They can dominate, and you can do some things that aren't sound and get away with it for a while. But when you have I would say that NFL teams, the reason that I love the league and it's so competitive, because you may not be the best physical team on the field, but if the players believe in what they're doing, that it's not really the coach. I always try to preach the fact that it's your team.
Yeah.
We're here for, you've heard me say this.
Ownership. Yeah.
You've been on my staff.
Yep.
This is your team, right? We're here for you. You're not here. The players aren't there for me.
No.
They're there for their team.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message that I wanted to preach to them and to live out. And that are their responsibilities? Yes. And I think one of the things that can help a team develop is not only having a great coaching staff through coordinators, assistant coaches, all the way down through whatever staff. They have to feel like they're a part of it. They have to be, they feel like they're in it, right? With you. I really wanted the players and the way you get the message out, besides just yourself, is through your coaches, but then also through the captains, through this leadership, this core leadership group. And you got to have strong captains that take over for you, that do the things that you really shouldn't have to be doing, right? Keeping players in the locker room focused in, and those captains or those leaders repeating the vision. Hey, we're not going that way. We're going this way.
Yeah, right.
And pulling those guys. And I've been around some really strong leaders, and you have as well, on teams. And once they get it, and they're convicted because of it, and you can win with a team that has lesser ability, because all those guys, they pull those guys in.
They buy into the culture. Yeah. You know what? To me, it's a Jesus principle. When he transferred ownership into the disciples, and then they went and then they spread that because they bought in, they totally understood and believed it. And like you said, I say it this way: clarity is kind. Doesn't always feel kind when you're hearing it, but it really ultimately is kind at the end, because we all need the truth. We always want to hear the truth. And sometimes the truth stings, but we still need it. We still need
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Let me ask you this. This show's called Another Rep. And what does another rep mean to you? Now you've played it, you've coached it, you've talked it, you've lived it. I mean, you've lived the life of this, and it can mean anything. But what does it mean to you? Another rep.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for asking me that question. All right. And I would think that you having so many people on your show, on this particular program, can answer it in so many ways. And I sort of feel like another rep to me means sort of a progression, right? It means life continues on, and another rep is either staying with what you're doing. It might be another rep might be a new project, right? A new project, but it all is a progression in life. So that's kind of what I think another rep would be for me, is not just doing the same thing, right? When you think about another rep, you mean I got to do another push up, another bar dip, another pull up, or whatever. But it's bigger than that, because it may be another rep in a whole different exercise, and
or a whole nother mindset.
Yeah, I would say this. I guess another rep for me is not a different rep either. It's I don't feel like I'm going to have to give up my Christianity because I'm not right now on a football staff. I guess another rep can mean, there's a consistency in moving forward. Okay, so I'm rambling now. I'm trying to look for that.
No, I love it. I love it. Hey,
exciting definition.
Because we're always coaching somebody. You're going to be coaching your grandkids here, if you're not already coaching your grandkids.
And I'm trying to just be their biggest fan.
That's right.
Right.
I'm going to close this off because I think now that your grandchildren will listen to this, they may call you the Hungarian hellfighter, and not not
Sir King grandfather.
I
For
like the
King.
Hungarian Hellfighter. That to
Yeah.
me, I asked you at the beginning all the different nicknames, and you had Z-Man and Jay-Z and all these different ones. Nothing surpasses the Hungarian Hellfighter.
I know. Alvin Roy. Alvin Roy put that on me.
Hey man, I can't tell
I
you how much
appreciate it.
I love having you on another rep. This has been great. And let's just keep repping,
Okay. Well, we'll
knows where
talk
God's
soon.
gonna
I
take
know.
us.
Hey, have a great Easter.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a great Easter, and we'll do it again sometime.
That's right.